When you are younger, you were told not to fear the dark. Do not fear the unknown or what you cannot see. However, this could not be further from the truth, as I know a group that all should fear above all others. They go by many names, the Dark Riders, the Living Shadows, but most know them as the Phantoms. Shadowy assassins and dealers of death, relic hunters from a long-gone time almost forgotten to history. A mysterious cult that is surrounded by myth and legend. They are near supernatural in many ways, allowing confusion about them to grow even more, and it is for this reason that they are the most feared of the land. For wise is the one who fears what they cannot see, and if you see a phantom, it is already too late for you. In reality, they do not use this name themselves. When in the company of one another, they refer to each other as the Acolytes. In fact, most of them would scoff at the name Phantom, if they cared much for the modern world, as their focus is instead on the ancient past, to the near-forgotten history of the ancient lands of Neodor. Back then, during the Age of Barons, the second oldest age known to man, the people who lived there were only known as the Neodor Hermits. Surprisingly, they were peaceful nomadic peoples. Most scholars, including myself, believe they were the first to ever tame dragons. Though I must admit this is debated, but sadly, this is what led to their end. It is unknown how their neighbours also learned how to ride dragons. Perhaps the hermits themselves taught them, making the story even more tragic. Regardless, the nearby realm started to view them as threats, and swiftly massacred them in countless numbers. Most phantoms refer to this event as the Eventide, one of the worst tragedies this land has ever seen. If the Acolytes are to be believed, they are the descendants of the few that survived, casting away the shackles of peace in order to bring dark vengeance to those who have wronged them. I don't believe this is the case, however. I think they are a neo-cult, formed by people looking back to the past to learn from it. This doesn't invalidate them in any way. In fact, it almost makes them more honourable, as they are trying to redeem the past for its mistakes. Oh, but between you and me, don't tell an Acolyte I said any of this. I think this idea should be a private scholarly debate. Surprisingly, the Phantoms still have some scholarly nature to them. They are famed historians when it comes to the Age of Barons. I've gone to the Acolytes seeking knowledge myself, and they have been all too eager to share. Provided I have something for them, of course. I greatly admire them for this fact. Though shadowy death dealers, they have not forgotten their roots in the slightest. However, they do take it a little too far, given that they neo-worship their history almost as much as the dragon gods themselves. Speaking of which, I should mention, they are religious zealots when it comes to the dragon gods and the ancient ways. Though some circles are more than others, but they all will in fact kill in preserving the ways of the past and in the name of the gods. Some of the more righteous circles have joined Skaldian campaigns for the sake of preserving the name of the gods, viewing it as a sort of crusade. Of course, for most phantoms, you will still need to offer them something in order to get their assistance. A relic from the Age of Barons will get them to do near anything, and it's not unheard of that they'd fight for coin. One of the main jobs they do, of course, is assassination. As previously mentioned, they are assassins. In fact, they're the best you can find. Many a noble has hired a phantom at great expense to make sure they are not tied to the death of their rival, and the phantoms oblige, never failing in their job. They care little for the modern world and its politics. They instead focus on the protection and worship of the few remaining relics and temples of the past. Though there are lots of cults, or circles as they would rather be called, there are 3 of them that are famed above all the others. These are the cults that live within the temples of Skalavig, Halgin, and Skultar. While I have never stepped foot inside any of these temples myself, as I believe they don't let the uninitiated into their sacred lands, I have been outside one of them to trade with them. I saw the outside of the Skultar temple. It was gorgeously designed, with massive statues leaning overhead, as far as the eye can see. It was beautiful, if in need of a little dusting. While I was there, I gave them an ancient warhammer in exchange for an egg of a dragon they hold as sacred. See, phantoms are known for riding a particular species of dragons, known as the Night Snaggers. Being found throughout the entire Neodor range, as well as anywhere else dark, damp, and secluded, they are very secretive and nocturnal beasts, as well as masters of stealth, making them the perfect companions for phantoms. I don't know much about the practices of phantom worship, but I know praying is part of their daily routine. Then, I believe they are to observe any relics that they have. I also know that quite a lot of temples have a sacred dragon that they venerate and pray to, most of them believing that they are sent from the very dragon gods themselves. I know of one cult that has a final trial. In order to join the members of the Order, you must meet face to face with the dreaded dragon Nogir in his lightless cave to be judged by him. Should he kill them, the cult will view them as a failure. No doubt this is a terrifying ordeal, as the dragon is famed to be able to curse you upon your death, as well as anyone who rides him. I also know of another cult who said to burn themselves in order to be closer to the sun god Mjord, and another who wander the land seeking to make armor out of weapons found from the Age of Barons. That group actually caused some infighting among the circles, as some firmly believe that all items from the Age of Barons should be seen as relics. I doubt this is what started their infighting. This is mostly a continuation of previous lost grudge matches. After all, it's quite common for fanatics to argue amongst each other, and given how old their order is, it's no surprise that these arguments have turned somewhat bitter. I've witnessed these battles firsthand, as early on in my travelling days, I adventured with a phantom for a bit. And even though it was little more than a month, it taught me so much about their order and kind. I'm ever thankful for the experience. This small tale starts with me being captured by a group of tribal raiders. They took me in as a prisoner. I had no idea what their intentions were for me, as I never found out. For 2 days into the journey, the caravan stopped abruptly. I turned around to see where my guard was standing, only to see a corpse leaning up against my cage. I didn't even hear a thing. I thought he was sleeping at first, till the cart beside me exploded with a fireball, and I heard the hissing of a night snagger flying overhead. I heard a scream, and turned to see the headless body of the chieftain taking 3 steps before dropping, revealing a phantom standing behind them, as they were quite a bit shorter than their target, and were cleaning the blood off their blade. Their back was turned to me, but I was still scared merciless, as I didn't even believe phantoms were real at the time. They turned slowly, revealing their spiked mask to me. They stared directly at me for a few seconds before they started to walk away. As they were leaving, I realized I needed their help in order to escape the cage I was in, so in desperation I cried out, Are you going to help me?" They stopped, pondering my question.
"Can you fight?"
they asked me. I stumbled, knowing that they were contemplating my worth. "Better than most," I blurted out. They then swung their sword at the cage, breaking away at its bars, then picked up an axe from the ground and threw it to me. Almost dropping it, I grabbed it and started following behind them. It's remarkable how elegant they are with their blades, considering how massive the swords are. And yet, they swing it like it's just a rapier, with all the grace of a dancer. They let me ride with them on their dragon. A bizarre experience, as night snaggers are very fast with janky and quick movements compared to other dragons. We did many things in our few adventures. One time I helped talk them out of a fight while we were travelling in the city of Helk. As one of the few moments I was more useful. It took me 2 weeks before I noticed that they were actually a woman, as they never took off their armour. Fascinating thing about their armour, despite being made of splint mail and covering them head to toe, they never make a sound. It's supernaturally silent, and, truth be told, a little eerie. I remember a moment of one of the later days of our travels. We were camping outside a small village I forgot the name of. I gathered wood, and their dragon burned it through a fire. I was asking her all sorts of questions, as I usually do, and, like usual, she was just polishing her weapon and shaking or nodding her head. But at one moment, I forget the exact details of the conversation, I used the word phantom to describe her. She put her weapon down and looked to me after I said that.
"Don't call us that. We are the acolytes, nothing more."
She then stood up and walked into the woods for the rest of the night. I thought I offended her, truth be told, but looking back, I think I was overthinking it. We parted ways shortly after that, as she was summoned by a group from her circle, and had to leave over a small civil war over a relic. She never said goodbye, you know. She just got on her dragon and looked back at me for a moment and then flew away. I sometimes wonder if she even remembers me. But the past is the past, eh? Best not dwell on it. Getting back to the topic at hand, acolytes, like marauders, sometimes loot the bodies of those they kill. However, unlike the marauders, they melt it down and reforge it into the splint mail armor that they are so stylized for, like the rest of their creed. In fact, forging might be sacred to them, as I know that the newly initiated have to craft a mask of their own, which will only change when they join a cult. Then they would have to craft a new mask to stylize themselves with the cult. So, Perhaps they have to forge their whole suit, as well as their weapons as well. Though I doubt they do the tailoring of their cloaks. I must assure you, if I haven't yet already, that although they are secretive mystical assassins, they should not be considered as evil as some would call them. They have codes of honor and justice, while not caring much for the laws of the land. They do have a set of laws that they hold righteously. In a way, they are the keepers of the balance. An order that is scary for a reason. But I think I'm getting a little bit too pretentious. Thank you for listening to my tales. I'm the Ashspawn. Feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me. But, till next we meet, fellow traveller. Have a good day.